The morning sun rose slowly over Rhodes, painting the stone walls of the island with shades of gold and crimson. The Ottoman banners fluttered in the salty wind, stretching across the horizon like a promise of destiny fulfilled. Soldiers moved quietly through the camp, their armor glinting with the first light of day. After weeks of siege, exhaustion hung in the air, but so did victory. And on this morning, Sultan Suleiman wanted the first act of the day to be one of faith. A temporary prayer area had been prepared inside a captured church courtyard. The irony of the moment was not lost on anyone. The bells of Rhodes had once called the island's defenders to prayer and war. Now, the same place echoed with the voices of the Ottoman army. Rows of soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder. Silence fell as Sultan Suleiman stepped forward. The weight of empire rested on his shoulders, yet his face was calm, focused, almost serene. Beside him stood Ibrahim, loyal friend, strategist, and the man who knew the Sultan's thoughts better than anyone else alive. The call to prayer rose into the morning air. For a brief moment, the war felt far away, and then everything shattered. A sudden metallic clang echoed through the courtyard. A figure lunged forward from the shadows near the bell tower man who had been invisible seconds before. In his hand, a hidden blade flashed in the sunlight. The church bell ringer. The distance between the assassin and the Sultan vanished in a heartbeat. But Ibrahim moved faster. He stepped in front of Suleiman without hesitation. The blade meant for the Sultan pierced into Ibrahim's side. Gasps filled the courtyard. Soldiers rushed forward, swords drawn, shouting in fury. The assassin was seized instantly, dragged to the ground, his weapon kicked away. Chaos erupted, voices rising, boots pounding against stone. But Suleiman heard none of it. His eyes were fixed on Ibrahim. Blood stained Ibrahim's clothes, spreading rapidly like dark ink across white parchment. He struggled to remain standing, refusing to fall, refusing to show weakness. "Sire," Ibrahim whispered, forcing a faint smile. "You're safe." Suleiman caught him before he collapsed. For the first time in a long time, the Sultan's composure cracked. Fear and unfiltered flashed in his eyes. "Get the physicians," he shouted, his voice echoing through the courtyard like thunder. The army's triumph had turned into terror in seconds. Ibrahim was carried away, pale and unconscious, leaving behind a silence heavier than any battlefield. Far from the chaos of Rhodes, the palace in Istanbul was drowning in a different storm. Hurrem's chamber was filled with hushed voices and hurried footsteps. The air smelled of herbs, incense, and fear. Servants moved back and forth with bowls of hot water and cloths, their faces tense. Hurrem gripped the sheets, pain tearing through her in waves. Sweat clung to her skin as she fought to breathe through each contraction. This was the moment she had waited for. Her second child. Another prince would mean security, power, a stronger place in the palace, a future no one could take from her. But fate was rarely so kind. The midwives whispered among themselves, their voices too quiet for comfort. Time stretched painfully. Every second felt endless. Finally, the cry of a newborn filled the room. For a moment, the world stopped. Hurrem searched the faces around her, desperate for the answer she already feared. A daughter. The words were not spoken aloud, but she saw the truth in their eyes. A daughter. Her heart sank. She forced a smile, pulling the baby close, but the disappointment cut deep. In the Ottoman court, sons were power, sons were protection, sons were the future. And somewhere in the palace, Mahidevran would be smiling. The news spread quickly. Mahidevran listened in silence as the messenger delivered the news. Then, slowly, a smile appeared on her face. A quiet, satisfied smile she could not hide. "Alahan Hikmeti," she murmured softly. Fate had chosen her side today, but in Rhodes, Suleiman had no time for palace rivalries. His fury burned brighter than ever. The assassin had a name, Murat. He had been dragged before the Sultan in chains. His face was bruised, but his eyes still burned with defiance. "You dared raise your hand against me," Suleiman said quietly. The calm in his voice was more terrifying than any shout. Murat said nothing. Suleiman stepped closer. "You tried to kill not only your Sultan, but the future of an empire. The punishment was swift, brutal, final." The message was clear. Betrayal would never go unanswered. And yet, the real storm was only beginning. The Grand Master of the Knights of Rhodes received the news with trembling hands. The assassination attempt had failed, But the consequences would be devastating. Would Suleiman punish only the guilty, or the entire island? Fear spread through Rhodes like wildfire. Back in the Ottoman camp, the physicians worked tirelessly over Ibrahim. Hours passed. The Sultan refused to leave his side. The empire could wait, his friend could not. Every breath Ibrahim took was shallow, fragile, uncertain. Suleiman stood in silence, the weight of mortality pressing heavily on him. Kings commanded armies, kings conquered cities, but kings could not command fate. Meanwhile, in Istanbul, another shock rippled through the palace. Hedda Sultan's engagement had already been fragile. Now the truth emerged, Mekelebi was gravely ill. The news struck like lightning. Haddis's world began to crumble. Or the beginning of something even more painful. Across empire and palace, battlefield and harem, one truth echoed louder than ever. Power came with a price, and the cost was rising. Every victory demanded sacrifice. Every ambition sparked new enemies. Every heartbeat carried the weight of destiny. The story was far from over, and the storm was only getting stronger. Every move in the palace and on the battlefield sparks a new storm. What will the Rhodes campaign and the palace intrigues bring? Who will win and who will lose? Share your predictions in the comments, hit like, and don't forget to subscribe to follow the rest of the adventure.